Hi, my name is Lorenzo Lisi, and I'm the leader of the Workplace Law Group at Berlis. Today's topic on Ask the Expert is 2020 and what we learned from a leadership perspective. My overall thoughts are that difficult circumstances caused by a crisis like the pandemic and social upheavals that we experienced in 2020 and into 2021 are cross-organizational. They are challenges that have been felt from the top to the bottom of the organization. As counsel to employers, I have seen the gamut of responses to these crises, ranging from the early panicked reactions to more thoughtful and strategic responses as information and risks became more apparent and the direction of the organization came into clearer focus. I want to talk about a few things that I've noticed since the onset of the pandemic from a leadership perspective. The list isn't exhaustive, and it is tempered by the fact that we are not yet out of the woods, although there is light at the end of the tunnel. For me, it has highlighted the strengths of good leadership, which can be applied universally, regardless of the circumstances, and going forward. So the first thing is the value of planning. 2020 has taught us that it is vital to plan and have contingency planning in the workplace, not only from a pandemic and a diversity and inclusion perspective, both issues which came to the fore in 2020 and 2021, but generally. So good leadership asks the questions, how will the reorganization react next time a crisis presents itself? Is it equipped with an action plan? Are you planning for immediate changes in how employees work? And how will company standards be impacted by a future crisis? That is one of the big critical analysis points that I find employers are engaging in right now. Even if 2020 caught us unawares, the next crisis should not. Contingency planning for all elements of the business is a priority and has been implemented by forward-thinking organizations. The next topic is analysis paralysis. And by that, I mean, one of the things that I have seen on occasion is that the impact of a pandemic or the immediate impact of social upheavals in 2020 and 2021 created kind of high emotion organizational stress, and what resulted sometimes were incomplete or unthoughtful responses. Priorities may change, there may be clashes amongst leaders, you may get push up from the bottom. So what 2020 really did show us is effective leadership includes clear thinking, the courage to be decisive, and the need to involve input from all levels of the organization, not just from the top. In particular, the pandemic highlighted the need to make more immediate decisions, set shorter term goals, getting to what was important and essential. That is one thing that I found good leadership really did demonstrate during a period of crisis. Action over inaction was preferred, and prioritizing what wasn't urgent over what was immediate was critical. Explaining these decisions across the organization was also important, and good leaders sought feedback, even in uncomfortable situations. When the pandemic started, for example, and we got various kind of directives from the government, we weren't sure of the legislation or what was occurring, who could work, who could not. Good organizations sat back, took the information that they had, but looked ahead to what might be coming and prepared themselves in advance. Mobilizing the workforce, for example, was also very important. As soon as the regulations came out that indicated who could work and who could not, good and forward-thinking organizations were ready for it. That was an important part in a leadership takeaway that I took from 2020. The next point would be take action, but be accountable. And by that, I mean that effectively led organizations broke down the silos in the organization and sought cross-organizational input. They also took responsibility for decisions, good and bad, acknowledged mistakes and missteps, learned early to recognize those mistakes, and took responsibility as they became critical. I find that was a very important part of good leadership, which was that once decisions which were problematic were identified, there was no fear in going back and saying we need to rethink this. And I think that was a critical part of the lessons learned from a leadership perspective in 2020. Good management shifted towards embracing empathy and demonstrating leadership in its full sense rather than any academic model. This included a newfound value in human resource capital and a greater importance on the value of employees, which shifted the emphasis to human resources. Good leadership made this a priority. The health and well-being of its people became paramount. The heightened importance of health and safety of employees, customers, and society in general shifted the focus of the organization. Good leaders integrated this into the organization and make it a priority going forward. What we did find is that the good news is that there really are new opportunities as we come out of the pandemic. Part of those opportunities, for example, will include a greater emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. That is one of the big lessons we learned from 2020. How will the organization integrate not only surface goals, but real change in the organization to show that it is forward thinking, which will not only provide greater energy to the organization, but will also help in both a recruitment and retention perspective. Thinking beyond each day is critical now as we move forward. The pandemic has taught us that not only do good leaders need to be flexible, but they need to look beyond current challenges and plan forward. 2020 may ironically lead to a change for the positive in the way leaders think and how we plan for the future. And that might be the greatest impact of what we experienced in 2020. Thank you.